And there we go. We're live.
Do it, Andy. Do it.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
Do it.
Do
Do it.
it. With that, we're gonna jump right into this 25th episode of the Who Virgin podcast. So much to talk about. So exciting. Um, I just I feel really addicted to the series for the first time ever. Like I had to restrain myself to stop myself from watching more than just the second half of the fifth season here. So I'm really excited. But before we do that, we're gonna talk some rumors about what's going on in upcoming season 9. What's going on, Mark?
Well, the first thing that I guess we can talk about is that Russell T Davies was quoted as saying that during the what was it, the end of the Time Lords, the lady who has her hands on her face, that is the Doctor's mother. Uh,
Yeah,
so
you called it.
yeah, he said it, and I think the reason why he said it, there's a rumor behind that, is that we might see her appear and in the upcoming season, because the big rumor is that the Doctor finds Gallifrey, and now that he's found Gallifrey, he has to protect it and bring it back into the timeline of reality. So I think when that happens, he might find his mom, or maybe his mom helps him bring back Gallifrey. However, that's going to work out. That's pretty cool. But it was real interesting that Davies came out and said it. So there has to be something there. And then, of course, we know that David Tennant was around. It was in Wales when they were filming, so we might see one or maybe two doctors. There was this article that was written where they show Tom Baker, and I didn't realize that at the time, and it's in the 50th anniversary special, where he tells the Doctor, uh, "Go forth and have adventures. You never know what faces you'll see again." So that's a big, big hint. And lastly, it was confirmed that we're going to see the Jadoon. You remember those? The rhinoceros-looking
Oh yeah, yeah.
stormtrooper guys? They're coming back, and so are the Hath. You remember the Hath?
Oh, I remember the half.
The
Yeah.
water bubble, you guys? Well, the real cool thing about the Hath is that the last episode we saw them in was in The Doctor's Daughter. So
Hmm.
immediately people are thinking that maybe Maisie Williams is a regeneration of the Doctor's Daughter. Maybe. So
And she's hanging out with a fish friend.
right,
With
right.
the kid.
So all of that is, of course, it's all rumors. Take it with a pinch of salt, or maybe a block of salt. But it's still kind of cool, and it sort of makes sense, sort of. But either way, it's got me jazzed for the new season.
Yeah, and the this is not a rumor. This is speculation and someone saying something off the wall. But
Right.
during a Twitter Q&A earlier this week, Haley Atwell said, "I would like to be the Doctor." Someone asked her, "Do you want to be on Doctor Who?" She's like, "No, I want to be Doctor." So we are not going to talk about this. We're going to talk about whether the Doctor could be female or not. We've
We'll
talked
lose
about that
40 minutes if
two
we
or
do.
three times in on this podcast already. Go back and find one of those episodes. The last time we really got into it was the episode about the fires of Pompeii. So go back there. Uh, but that got me excited. Just I think it's just so cool how many people are into Doctor Who um, and how much cool speculation there is going on about this. I don't hear this around that many things. I hear this kind of speculation and excitement around like Marvel Civil War, and I hear it around Star Wars, and that's about it. So yay fandom. Melissa, of all of those, which of those do you think are most exciting? Which of them do you think are the most likely to be BS? What do you think about those?
I try not to pay attention to rumors about things that I love because then I'll just end up disappointed, you know.
Huh.
Uh, Marco and I have talked about this before when the rumors about like Star Wars started and nobody knew what was happening. All that Disney had done was just announce that there would be movies when we first found out they bought Star Wars from Lucas. And there was just so many rumors that turned out not to be true, like 90% of them. And, you know, it's just a waste of time and energy to think about it. So I try hard not to, but it's almost impossible, I find these days, to avoid a Doctor Who spoiler, you know, as we're ramping up towards the season. So I just don't want to really think about it or get too excited. I would love Haley Atwell to be the Doctor. I'd love any woman to be the Doctor. But again, we won't get into that, as you said, because we've hashed that out before, and nobody's changing their mind on that one, as usual. So yeah, you know, part of me kind of wishes Davies hadn't said that about it being the Doctor's mother, because that just churns the rumor mill. You know, I'd rather be surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, it's rare that, I mean, in this day and age, it's hard to avoid those spoilers, unless you just completely like shut yourself off. So I don't know. I mean, I'm so much of an agnostic at this point. Like, I don't know which way is up. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Oh, that sounds cool. But I have like no context for what this is other than like, oh, that sounds good. So, I
You know what?
mean,
I gotta give you some prop, because well, I mean, you know where I stand in terms of the Doctor switching genders, you know, for continuity's sake. So we won't get into that. But you had a real good idea, and I actually like it, because you said that if it's like a passing of the torch type of thing, that it could work, and that really could, because the Doctor got an additional 12 regenerations, and it was kind of a cop-out to do it the way they did it. I get that. I rolled with it, and I continue to roll with it, but it was kind of a cop-out. But in terms of for the longevity of the show, I think it would be a good idea for the Doctor to be a title that can be passed on to another Time Lord. And if that Time Lord happens to be female, kick ass. I'm all for it. So if let's say the Doctor's objective is to bring Gallifrey back, he does. Resolution, peace within himself, and he doesn't want to continue being the Doctor of the universe anymore, he can pass that title along to Haley Atwell, and everybody will be happy, and I'll love it even more because Haley Atwell. But still, I mean, it's a good idea, and I really like the way you set that up, and I think BBC should listen to you.
well, and I think the other thing that's even more likely, if even if you think that the Doctor isn't a title per se, the Doctor's daughter is technically a clone. It's just remixed DNA. So if Maisie Williams comes back as his daughter, if someone comes back as his daughter, then, I mean, that is, for all intents and purposes, the Doctor.
Right.
But just, you know, she's going under the name of Jenny. So that's cool. But if, you know, they decide to pass that torch along to her, then I think that would be also interesting and would keep, I don't know, would split that baby in some ways. But the other thing is, you know, this whole, like, there are several instances just in the end of this season where the Doctor like shares his consciousness for even a few brief moments with people, like when he bonks James Cordron in the head, and he's like, "Here, let me show you what's going on." If there's a way to do that more permanently, it's like, here, you, this other person who I'm going to pass my title on to, here's the sum of my experiences, and
Right.
they become the Doctor in a sense. Like
I could
that's
totally
also,
roll with that. That makes sense to me. You know, that's more along the planes of making actual sense.
yeah. So sci-fi. I continue to say sci-fi show, and you do whatever they want. The bounds are limitless. Um, but let's talk about these episodes. I got through the end of season 5 and the Christmas special. Um, the Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. Um, See, I told y'all that fracking was dangerous. Jeez, nobody listens.
We're unleashing the lizard people.
We're awakening the lizard people south of San Antonio with all the fracking and the air pollution that we're already getting. Anyway, yeah. So I this was I thought this was really cool, except that um, it felt like a well, I don't know if it was a cop out or a reassurance from the very beginning, where like Rory and Amy show up 10 years in the future and they're waving hi to everyone. Then it's like, okay, well, I know that nothing bad is going to happen to them. So even though they're in mortal peril, even though Rory gets erased from time at the end, I'm like, okay, well, but he's not really dead, even though no one remembers him. So I don't know whether that's like a good thing, a bad thing. I don't know. I don't know where I come down on that.
I think the purpose was to show you initially that everything's going to be all right, and then kick you in the nads and show you that no, everything's not going to be okay, at least for a while. But the
It,
thing with Doctor Who is that no one's really dead until they're dead. Until you're like you get a verifiable reason why they're dead, then they're dead. And that's just the way it happens in that world. And we'll get there soon with certain characters. But I think it was a pretty good setup. I didn't mind it too much because when you think Rory might die, you're thinking, oh, but we saw in the beginning that he's waving, hello to everybody. So the Doctor's going to pull something out of his butt and bring him back to life. But then we see that that's not the case. So it's a little bit of misdirection. Might have been cheesy. I don't know. I can see how people might think it is, but I ended up liking it because it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool trick.
it is. And the fact that even though I knew he was okay, you're right. It still felt painful.
Yeah, that was a punch in the gut.
That was not cool. I don't know, Melissa. What do you have any thoughts about these episodes?
Um, at first I was like, okay, what's going on? I really wasn't sure where they're going. After seeing the resolution about how he wasn't erased from space and time and stuff, it felt like it was earned, and I was okay with it. And because also I think after the really strong beginning to this season, I was more willing to kind of go with them wherever they wanted me to go instead of just being skeptical about everything in a way that I hadn't really felt about this show in quite a while, to be honest. I guess you could call it a level of trust that they had already earned for me because I just enjoyed the first half of the season and I was really loving this Doctor already. So, yeah, I was cool with it. Yeah, I there were a couple of characters I wanted to punch in the face, but that's gonna be the case, I think, anytime you have two groups on the brink of battle. So, other than that, I really have no complaints at all.
I, I
Yeah,
don't I don't know why I thought that. I mean, no, thinking about it now, I'm pretty sure that this is the way negotiations with Iran are going. Because you have people from both sides that are dead set in, murder, death, kill. We're going to annihilate the other side. But there is a group of people on both sides that are saying, okay, let's hash this out. Let's be reasonable. Let's think about the consequences, which is what you had with the old lizard dude and the Indian lady. I forget her name.
yeah.
They were the ones doing the diplomatic approach. But then you just had people who are hell bent in let's just go to war and try to erase each other without truly understanding the consequences. And for some reason, I just get a feeling that's the way current negotiations are going because we have a large faction in this country that, the hell with it, we want to go to war with them. And I'm pretty sure they have a large faction that feels the same way. So it's kind of realistic in that approach, I think.
Yeah, these two episodes made me feel very bad about humanity. Um,
Yes.
yeah, the doctor's speech where he's like, "You're going to have to be the best human beings you could be. You have to be better than the best." And then they go and torture and kill their captive,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's like, huh, that's not a all a metaphor for like what's going on right now with international relations and Guantanamo Bay and so on and so forth. It's just awful. And yeah, it made me feel like it there's there's so much that we are denying ourselves because we just want to kill anything that's different. And who's to say that we couldn't have some sort of a cool, peaceful coexistence with, another race of people? Like, seriously though, if there were lizard people under the ground, like, I'm pretty sure that like most people would be like, kill it with fire.
Do a fire.
It's like, just people people in America don't even like people from Mexico. They're not going to like people from under the ground. Jeez.
Yeah.
We're awful. We're all awful.
Oh, humans.
Especially Americans. At least with the Brits, they had like a little bit of a chance. I think what the lizard people need to do is they need to make sure that they like come up in Canada or Sweden or someplace like that. Polite and peaceful.
Yeah, I don't think they have a chance in Britain either. The xenophobia there is just as bad as here, only for Muslims and Indian people rather than Mexicans. It's still brown people either way, so it's still racist either way. But it's just yeah, I don't think they have any chance. England and America, I fear, are really alike. As much as we don't want to say it, I mean, maybe culturally and the food, and they have way better health care plan. But other than that, I mean, a two-party system that fails everyone. A lot of Bible thumpers just off the hook and trying to impose their religion on everyone. The xenophobia, the income inequality is not as bad there, but it's pretty bad. It's they're all in all the worst ways. We're exactly like them. And in little ways we're different.
I hate to say it, but I think that they are like us in those bad ways. I tend to like be more optimistic about the British. But...
well, take their history into consideration. The Brits were extremely bloody. Extremely.
That's why when people get on America about our military-industrial complex, I'm usually right in line behind them to criticize. But the people I won't listen to are the British, because they have no place telling us anything. I mean, we could go for centuries trying to conquer sovereign nations and killing millions, and it might not still add up to what they've done historically. And what they, some of the repercussions even today. Like I was in the Cayman Islands a couple of years ago, and the Queen still gets to choose their governor.
Yep.
They don't even get to elect their damn governor. An entire nation. I mean, it's ridiculous. Of course, that's not all that much worse than what we're doing with Guam and Puerto Rico right now, but
yeah.
There you go. That's why they don't get to criticize us, because it's the same. In all the worst ways, we're the same.
It's still white imperialism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think if lizard people ever came out, there'd be a collective sigh of relief from all the brown people in the world, and that'd be like, well,
yeah, a new villain.
Take the pressure off of us for a while.
All right, Sandrans or Silurians, if you're down there. I said Sandrans. I can't believe that. You too, if you're there too. Well, no, actually, we don't want.
We don't want them.
They're both pretty warrior and hell bent on war, so who knows? But yeah, if you're down there, Silurians, you can just.
At least the lizard people had like a lot of like science and stuff like that. That it seemed like there were at least some of them that were more curious. But end of the day, they're just as bad as we are. We deserve each other. Terrible.
It reminded me of the lizards from V, you remember that show?
Yeah.
Only they came from underground instead of the sky, and they can't disguise themselves as humans like the V's could. But But it sort of reminded me of that in a way, because we all know the bees are like, oh, we'll help you with our superior technology and we'll cure you of your ills, and then it turns out they just wanted our planet, you know.
Yeah, they're gonna steal our water. Damn dirty lizard people. Can't trust the V. Jeez. Let let's let's go on and talk about Vincent and the Doctor though, because
Yay!
One
this
of my favorite episodes.
this
Yes.
was where it kicked in for me. Like I watched Vincent and the Doctor, and I okay, I'm gonna admit to something here that up to this point, there have been times where watching Doctor Who felt a little bit more like a chore or like something an obligation. I got to do it because we're going to do the podcast, and I said I was going to watch these episodes, so I'm going to watch it, and I enjoyed it, but not to the extent of here. I was always feeling a little bit like I don't get why people are so jazzed about this show. I'm having a good time, but I'm not like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. This this right here. Yeah, and then I watched this and I couldn't stop. I was like, okay, I'm ready to watch the entire sixth season. Like I had to stop myself from going further. Um, After watching Vincent and the Doctor, I like every single second that I had to spare, I was trying to watch Doctor Who. So, um, those next four episodes went by really quickly after that, and then I felt very sad. Um,
You know what the funny thing is, Andy? Uh, the monster of the week or whatever didn't even matter. Uh,
Mhm.
the very fact that we took on Vincent Van Gogh and tried to understand him in a way,
mhm.
and they humanized him. He may have been a terrible person. I don't know. But the fact is that we tried to understand him as a person and what he was going through. Of course, he probably wasn't seeing alien monsters coming at him. He probably was mentally incapacitated for a while. But he produced this beautiful art that we all just, love. We're all still benefiting from his art, and to give him the chance, or to give an actor the chance to portray Vincent as he might have been, with his depression, with his mental issues, and moving him into the future where he gets to find out that people do love his work, and he breaks down in joy. That made the episode for me. It really didn't matter that we had an alien creature and that he inadvertently killed it. To me that was besides the point. It was all about Vincent. And one of my favorite scenes is when they're all laying down on the ground at night and they're holding hands and he's telling them how to see what he's seeing. And then we see Starry, Starry Night.
Mhm.
That was gorgeous. That was
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous. And my heart broke for him because we all know what eventually happened.
Yeah. That was, and I will begin here. I know nothing about art history, about the actual life of Vincent van Gogh, and you know, aside from what's presented here, it's not like the Shakespeare episode where I feel like I have a pretty strong background on like English lit and Shakespeare's life. This I know nothing. And so I'm approaching this completely from the perspective of if they made a character who was serving their purpose, I don't know whether he's actually like the real person or not. But it's like when David Bowie was on the Venture Brothers. It's like it's supposed to be David Bowie, but it's not actually David Bowie because he can turn into a hawk and whatever, a bunch of other stuff. But so I thought this was just really really cool for that very reason that you brought up, the whole idea of the artist who thinks he's toiling in obscurity and the depression, and the difference between that first scene that we have with him where he's in the bar and he's trying to give them one of his most famous paintings, his self portrait,
Right.
and like I just want one drink for one painting, And Amy's like, well, I'll take a bottle of wine and I'll share it with whomever I want to. Uh, and like that was it was heartbreaking because this was a real character, and I don't remember the actor's name who portrayed him, but he just did
Perfect. Yeah.
such a great job. And when he shows up in the next or in later episodes too, um, yeah, it's just absolutely amazing.
I agree. It's perfect casting for Van Gogh, and that his name is I don't know if I'm saying it right, Tony Curran. I love him because he's in this show that I watched that I think is kind of underrated on Sci-Fi. He's one of the leads. It's called Defiance,
Oh,
and
there.
he yeah he's kind of unrecognizable a bit because he plays an alien, and this particular there's a lot of alien races in that show, but this particular one they look almost like albinos, but without the red eyes, they just have like really bright blue eyes. But they're very very pale, and he's sort of a villain, but he's sort of an anti-hero kind of, which I would normally be really annoyed with, but he's more villain than hero, so it's a little more interesting. But he does a fantastic job in there. And when I first saw that show, I was like, oh my god, because I was like, I couldn't tell because he's so disguised. Only some of his features showed through, and I was like, where do I know this guy? Where do I know this guy? And it took me like 3 episodes. Oh my god, it's the doctor, or it's Vincent, and I was like, oh my god. But yeah, he's really really good in that show. But he'll always be Vincent to me, no matter how much I like that show. He's just always going to be this role. And, and I didn't even mind, like, at first, when I first saw this, because I've actually seen this episode a few times, when I first saw it, I was kind of like, well, why did he still have to die? But I get why they did it, and they kind of had to, it would suck if they somehow had some revisionist version of history where he, like, lived longer and had 200 more paintings or something. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have the same impact today.
Yeah.
And I almost cried when they had to give back the painting he was trying to offer too. I was like, oh no! Like, I don't know if I would have had the strength to do that. To be honest, I might have been like, oh, thank you, and taken it. But yeah, the way, and I've said this before, the way they inject the Doctor into actual historical situations, and it makes total sense, but it doesn't change history, and maybe even in some ways clarifies it a bit, because that monster could have been the reason why everybody thought he was a madman, and was responsible for his mental illness. When they do that and they just inject themselves in it feels seamless. It's brilliant. It's really brilliant and creative, and I have zero complaints about this episode. I think it's maybe my second favorite New Who episode ever, behind Blink, and we're talking like really close behind Blink. Like almost neck and neck.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know what? One thing I really like, I shouldn't say like, but I really appreciated is that what we do know about Vincent Van Gogh. We say Van Gogh here, right? We're American. We're still.
Yeah.
Sure. Whatever.
What we do know about him is that he may have suffered from schizophrenia, but he definitely suffered from bouts of depression. And what I appreciated about this episode was we ended Vincent Van Gogh's life the only way it could have ended, because he was a severely depressed man who may have been schizophrenic. And just because a doctor shows up and helps him with an alien monster, it doesn't mean his whole life is going to change. And by the way, this is the way depression works. You can be super happy one day, 3 days, 4 days, super happy, the sun's shining bright, you see all the positivity around you. And then on day 6, it's nothing but clouds and negativity that will take you to very dark places. So that's probably what happened to Vincent. This is how his end came. And I appreciate that the doctor's visit didn't change that. And it's also a lesson that there's things that the doctor cannot change. He can show up and alleviate situations, but he can't change everything. And unfortunately, they couldn't change the trajectory of Vincent Van Gogh's life.
Well, and even knowing about your success and things like that. I mean, geez, I mean, we're less than a year from this, but Robin Williams,
Right.
you know, it's the exact same situation. Most of us didn't know how, his struggles with clinical depression, and geez, Van Gogh was way worse. So this this felt very humanizing, very real, very authentic, and was just beautiful. Um, whereas the last two episodes made me feel really bad about humanity, this made me feel really good about humanity and like what we're capable of and us taking care of one another. And like the most heartbreaking thing, they can't see this alien that's coming at them. Vincent can, and he's just trying to defend Amy and the doctor with his easel. He didn't mean to do anything more than just push the creature back and ends up killing it. And he's just so heartbroken because he probably feels a kinship there. It's like this poor creature, out of place, blind, doesn't really know what's going on around it. It's broken and it's been inadvertently destroyed because it just couldn't exist in this place. Um, it's just a beautiful metaphor.
Right. I
And
agree. And such a great episode. Like I said, it's jam packed with emotion, and you wouldn't think it would be. And somebody else's hands this would have turned into a complete cheese fest. But it was handled so well, and there's a deep feeling of loss when they go back at the end, and it's mentioned that he died at the age he was supposed to die. So they met him a month before he killed himself, and nothing they could do changed it. And it's so sad because his paintings bring so much joy to the world. Like Robin Williams, like I'm glad you brought that up because he made a lot of people laugh. He made a lot of people happy, but he couldn't make himself happy, and that is truly sad. Like when I heard that he had killed himself, I felt like I lost something, even though I didn't know the guy. But I grew up watching his movies. I remember Mork and Mindy. The guy made me laugh all the time.
yeah,
And points in my life where I was low, I found laughter through him. So that we lose these people, it's really sad. And I think this episode portrayed that perfectly. But there was a sense of beauty as well. I mean, he developed a kinship with Amy, and Amy was really hopeful that them being there was going to make him live longer. And she went rushing into the museum, remember? And she says, there's probably so many more paintings now.
hmm
And there wasn't, and that's crushing. But, I mean, there was that hope. There's beauty in this, as well as all the other emotions.
and I have to. Speaking of the museum, man, Bill Nighy here
Oh, yes.
just was so great. And you know, in high school, my drama teacher always said, "There are no small parts. There are only small actors." And I have rarely seen an actor do so much with so little. But oh, again, he just nailed this, and it almost felt more like the doctor bringing Vincent to see his artwork was as much a blessing to um, whoever he was, the art professor or whatever in residence there, who knew everything about Van Gogh, to see him and talk about his paintings. It was just absolutely amazing.
A little inside info. Bill Nye was approached to be the doctor. He turned it down. And he has said that he deeply regrets turning it down. So I think him being in this episode is kind of a consolation of trying to get back into Who, at least for one episode. But just imagine him as the doctor, how wonderful that would have been.
When would that have been?
I think this was before Tennant. He was
Oh,
offered the position before Tennant.
wow. So they would have gone pretty old then
Yeah,
for him. But that's
he
wow.
could have been
That's
rocking those bow ties.
he would be. Um, that's just awesome. Let's take a little break and we'll come back and we'll do the Lodger, the Pandorica opens, the Big Bang, and A Christmas Carol.
Cool.
Cool. Anybody need a little break?
Yeah, I need to get something to drink.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Shut up.
Yeah, I just need a little drink.
Alky McBoosteen over here.
I know we're unbearable to hang out with, but it doesn't mean you need to booze up. Or
Whatever.
maybe it does.
She's listening.
Yeah, she should be.
Don't hear you.
Hey, Boozerstein, hurry up.
What did you call me?
Hey, you know what we found out yesterday? Andy's androgynous, apparently. Yeah, my name has roots in Valiant Warrior, and Andy's androgynous.
Yeah, no, that was partially a joke. It did say that And was beautiful and Rue is men. So I took a that whole thing is actually like that's just one of those random quizzes that's not actually based in fact.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, every woman said, because I posted that, and all of a sudden, like, all my cousins, all my friends were posting theirs, right? And every single one of the women except one got the same thing as me.
Yeah.
One woman got warrior princess. And I was like, hey, I'd rather be a warrior princess than a sensual goddess, because warrior princess, people will leave you alone because they're scared of you. Sensual goddess, they won't stop leaving you alone. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather be a warrior princess. Far less expectations that way.
Why not both? People certainly think Lucy Lawless is pretty hot, so.
She's all right.
I think she's pretty.
Yeah.
I think she's all right. You know what? I never was a real Xena fan. That stupid scream she did, that little yell, just would annoy the hell out of me.
I was not a Xena fan, but I started being a fan of hers on
Flight of the Conchords?
X-Files. Oh, Flight of the Conchords, yes.
That was perfect.
I was going to say X-Files and Battlestar Galactica, although
Battlestar.
She's only like my third favorite Cylon, so anyway. But that's still okay.
I saw her in this show about ancient Rome. It was on Showtime for a while. An ex of mine, well, we were together at the time, he was really into like swords and sandals type movies and shows, and so I watched it.
The reason why he's an ex? He was selling two swords and sandals?
No.
Was this one of those things you were trying to force happen but didn't?
No, he was a history major, so he liked anything to do with history, really. But he particularly liked gladiator type things, and it was a decent show. It wasn't great, but I didn't watch the whole thing. I guess I joined it somewhere in progress after the first season or something. I don't know, but she was really good in like conniving. In that.
Was it Spartacus?
Spartacus, Blood and Sand.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I didn't see the whole thing. It was like she was supposed
Was Manu Bennett in it too?
From Arrow, yeah.
Yep.
She was supposed to be dead or something. And
Yeah.
like
My friends have a name for that show, which is Boner Fight,
no.
because of the amounts of nudity and blood in it.
I didn't watch the whole season though, but I saw some of it, and I didn't really know if she had really good acting skills up to that point. I figured that she had been cast in some of the stuff she'd been cast in because she's kind of like big and imposing, and they needed, like a warrior princess or somebody who could live up to those names, or values or whatever. But yeah, she impressed me. She was really good, because she was kind of crazy because she was supposed to be dead or something. I don't know. I don't really remember the storyline that well.
I don't know that there was a storyline in that show. I think it was just pretext for chopping off heads and graphic sex. So no, I don't know.
I think you just described Game of Thrones. Wait. Back up.
This is only me hearing this secondhand from friends who watch the show. I don't know. So I'm just joking.
It sounds like a lot of pay cable dramas, you know, like any reason to have nudity and sex, you know.
That's
Not
true.
not Flight of the Conchords though.
Like,
They were
awesome.
I
that
never
was
seen that one.
that was classy.
Melissa, you're missing out, man. Yeah, especially the episodes where she came out in. They had a bus tour that went like 2 blocks.
That whole thing was great because she was like attaché to the Prime Minister of New Zealand or something, and he is one of my favorite characters ever. He was so terrible. He's like reporting on his flight over from New Zealand. And he's like, we saw that movie Cars on the plane. I nodded off at the end. Did the boy car and the girl car get together at the end? Yes, they did. Okay, excellent. It's like, that's what the Prime Minister of New Zealand cares about.
Oh, speaking of which, there's going to be Cars 4?
Yes.
Why?
Or
Oh,
Car. Wait, is it Cars 3 or Cars
I
4?
don't even know at this point. They're all stupid.
Because it makes so much bloody money for them
But
that
they're bad movies,
they're
man.
really terrible movies. Oh,
I saw part of the first one and I got bored and sort of tuned out, which you know, most animated stuff I watch with my nephews, I'm like, you know, maybe I'm not into it when we start, but I'm usually, you know, my mind gets changed somewhere. This one did not change my mind. I didn't even know there were sequels. Like, wow. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
The Cars movies, and then they have the two Planes spin-off movies. They're,
okay.
they're
You
all
want
just
to talk about bad? That was bad.
yeah,
Planes was horrible.
Yeah.
yeah.
Beyond horrible.
And
I
they
I
keep
stomach,
they
but
they keep making them though because they make so much off of the merchandising that it's like the movie is the perfect loss leader. Oh, it doesn't matter
which
that we spent $50 million on this animated piece of crap.
it
Who
proves that
cares?
kids have no taste.
Yeah.
As long as it's animated, they'll watch it. Like they don't even know what's going on, you
Well,
know.
even more than that though, it's like they don't need to like watch the movie to like want to buy the toy Cars car or the sleeping bag with Lightning McQueen on it or the lunchbox. It's just really cool looking stuff that kids are going to be into because it's like really coolly designed. So,
Yeah. I hate those movies. And I want to punch Mater in the face. I just want to punch him. I hate him.
yeah, he's terrible. There's just no reason for that to exist. Yeah, anyway, next time on Pixar Talk, let's get back to Doctor Who and these last few episodes, starting with The Lodger. Oh,
Martin.
as soon as I saw James Corden, I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. So I was really happy. If I'd been watching this at the time, then that would have probably been the first time I ever would have seen him. But I really like him. I've liked a lot of the other things he's been in, especially recently. I haven't been able to catch any of his late night show. Do either of you watch it? Or
No,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
never actually heard of him when I saw this episode. And when they announced him as the new Late Late Show guy, I was like, where have I heard that name before? It took me a minute to realize that he had been in Doctor Who, which in my mind gives him some instant cred. Not a lot, but some. Uh, but I never heard of him before this episode, ever.
yeah. He was in one of my favorite movies from last year, Begin Again, with Mark Ruffalo and um,
Keira Knightley.
yeah. So love that. He was great.
Way underrated movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like that movie. And then he's in that great series that you can watch on Hulu's The Wrong Man's. It's just a really funny madcap adventure about two guys who are mistaken, and he plays exactly the type of person that you'd expect him to play, just a bumbling idiot office dwelling guy. And yeah, it gets funny. The second season not so good. That first season really good. But this was interesting. This might have been one of the more weaker episodes, but
Right.
Cordron was really fun, and or Corden, I guess. Sorry, I keep mispronouncing his name. Shows you how much I care about him. Um, my old buddy Jimmy there. Um, anyway, he's I just thought this was fun, and it was the return of the Doctor building wacky machines, which we haven't had in a while. So
Yeah.
that was fun.
But aside from that, it's a love story done well, where it doesn't end somebody, having sex with a tile. Uh,
We don't know that they had sex,
well,
but
no, that's actually yes, they do because there's a future episode.
oh
But
no,
but no,
please.
but this is a love story done well. And it is one of the weaker episodes of the season, but I liked it. I think it was done well enough. Uh, it was the whole love thing was a little cheesy. How they had to tell each other they loved each other and kiss in order to save the day.
Hmm.
I can see how people might not like that, but the episode overall was really really fun, especially when the doctor's trying to be normal and he's so not. When he says, "I got a bag of money," is this a lot? Like, is this enough?
Yeah,
He's totally clueless about what's going on around him, but he ends up doing well. Like, he becomes a soccer phenom in one day.
yeah. I just love that was the part of it that I found to be the most like true and funny bit was like everyone's got one of those people, especially I mean if you're like me and you're like, oh, I don't necessarily like I'm not the best looking guy, I'm not the smartest guy, I'm not the like most amazing guy, but I do what I do, and then suddenly I've got this roommate who comes in who's good at everything and is upstaging me at everything from my work to cooking um, to football, and it's like, what the heck? It's like I have no chance with this girl, and he's totally blocking me, and that sucks. When in fact the doctor was doing anything but he was he kept subtly pushing them together, and he just wouldn't take the hit. So
Mhm.
it's too bad.
Uh,
Um,
I love that face that James Corden makes when the doctor cock blocks him, uh, where he's like, "Oh, I can leave unless you want me to stay," and he makes this face like, oh, "Well, do you want to stay?" And then the doctor says like, "Yeah, okay." But that look of exasperation that I know I have made in my life
mhm.
more than a handful of times,
Yeah.
yeah, extremely familiar and funny.
Idiot for touching that mold, though. Like, he told you not to touch the mold.
Yeah, this episode was pretty funny. I liked it.
Yeah, and it was good because it brought the whole thing about perception filters and how strong they can be back into our minds right before the next episodes where they were going to become incredibly important.
Right.
So that was also really smart of them, I think, from a storytelling perspective. Like this episode could have kind of gone anywhere, um, but but it went here for that reason. Um, there was some peril there though, where like Amy's out in the TARDIS and doesn't know what to do or how to control everything. Um, so that was good.
Melissa's strangely quiet on this episode.
Yeah, well, no, I just was letting you guys talk about it. I think you enjoyed it a lot more than me. I didn't dislike it or anything. It's just that, after the last episode being so emotional and just so beautiful and well done, it was hard to get into this one for me for some reason. So at first I was like, but over time I think I grew to appreciate it a little more. It's still, nowhere near my favorite, and I think it probably is, the weakest of the season, but
It is.
you put it into like say season 3 and it's like outstanding almost. You know what I mean? Like if you look at it from a different perspective, it's a little above average because it did have a little more humor than usual, but it's just okay. It's there. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. And I think you needed a little levity probably after
Right.
how emotional Vincent and the Doctor was, and before we get into, you know,
Deep stuff.
the season ending stuff, yeah. So I think it was probably a good segue in that. So good job there.
I think it was a breath of fresh air. Just give us time to breathe before we go into something a lot deeper with a lot more consequence. After having just dealt with Vincent Van Gogh, we needed a change of pace, and I think this is exactly what it was. That's all it is. Not great, not bad, but I mean, if we're going to continue our season 3 crap fest, you're right. It's much better than anything on season 3.
Well, except for Blink.
Well, except for Blink, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But that's Moffat's baby, so
Yeah.
Technically it should probably be part of this season. But anyway, overall, it was not bad. It was not bad at all. Like I said, I really appreciate the funny parts, and there was a lot of funny. But yeah, definitely, if I had to rate it this season, it's going to be the weakest of the season.
See, and I like this better than Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, but
I'm going to slap you.
Not by a whole lot. I thought those were my 2 least favorites of this season, but I don't know. I like this. Maybe I like the funny a little bit more, and
you just don't like lizards.
Well, and maybe it's also that, like I said, I got so wrapped up in Vincent and the Doctor and watching these last 5 episodes so close together that they all kind of, my feelings about them blended into one a little bit more easily. And so I'm like, this is awesome. This is great because they're sandwiched in between the other ones. So, but I liked it a lot. I'm not even gonna bag on it that much, except that it's not the deepest thing ever, but that's okay. We have a fun episode. That's all right. But I think we all just really want to talk about the Pandorica opens in May, because man, those were good in so many ways.
Right.
These were great episodes, and they played up the villain angle well without it. Without the problems of Russell T Davies and his season enders, where it's like, oh, it's the Daleks again. Oh, it's the Cybermen again. Oh, it's Cybermen versus Daleks. It's like, no, it's everybody. And there's a real mystery about what the Pandorica is and what's going on here. And then it all comes back to Amy Pond, and it's just really, really fun. Well, I want to talk about these together, but it almost makes sense to talk about them separately because tonally they're so different and pacing-wise they're so different. The Pandorica Opens is your perfect mystery adventure, and The Big Bang is a kind of madcap time hijinks episode more. Even though they're bouncing around through time, it's a little bit more linear in a sense, where they have to go from point A to point B. Whereas the Pandorica Opens, they're just trying to figure out this mystery. I don't know. But I love both of these a ton. What did you both think?
First thing is River Song's way of notifying the Doctor that she needs to see him is hilarious once again. But this time she carves it into one of the oldest mountainsides in the universe. So she completely defaces, an entire cliffside to let the Doctor know that she needs to see him.
Well, he wasn't answering his phone.
He wasn't answering his phone.
No, he wasn't answering his phone.
And I love how much of a badass she is, because when she gets the phone call, she knows the Doctor's in trouble, and she goes to work. She outsmarts everybody once again with the hallucinogenic lipstick. And it's kind of funny where you have this older saying, oh, it's not going to work on me. It doesn't work here. And yeah, it did, because he's kind of a drawing. So that was cool. But aside from that, I really love the return of Rory.
Yeah.
But when I thought we finally got Rory, it turns out he's a plastic Rory. So I was conflicted about this because I wanted to see him back. I knew he was going to come back. I was sure he was going to come back. I was hoping he would, but I didn't want him to come back as a toy. I didn't know where they were going with this. I didn't know how it was all going to end. But him coming back was kind of cool. But the way he's being used was completely genius. And this is one of the reasons why I see that Amy is the companion with the most consequence. Because all the Doctor's enemies use her to get to him. And they use everything about her from when she's a child to where she is right now to create this elaborate trap. And the way it ends is because of Amy as well, but we're going to get into that when we talk about the next episode. But totally genius. I love the idea of the Pandorica, and I love the idea of all the enemies finally besting the Doctor, even though they don't. But we don't know that with the first episode.
Melissa?
It's funny because, and I'm not going to get into too many details because I don't want to spoil it, and you'll be seeing these episodes that I'm referring to soon enough, Andy. But at this point, I was still in love with River Song. Like, later on, certain things, like, there's a lot of revelations about her coming up, a lot of them. And certain things I started to not love so much. But at this point, I loved this character. And so, yeah, like, it was like a hearty, out loud laugh when I saw Hello Sweetie carved into the rock. And she's just awesome. She's smart. She's a step ahead of everyone most of the time. She's the only one who can really give the Doctor a run for his money on any level. And the fact that she was a woman was just so impressive to me, considering the history of women up till now, and New Who was not that great. So this just filled me with a lot of joy, just having her around and having her be a huge part of the resolution. As for Amy Pond, your assertion that she's most important, I don't know, because what Clara did, and we could call her Clara instead of Clara, right? Just like we can call Van Gogh instead of Van Gogh.
But we're not going to go there yet.
I'm not going to get into it. I'm just saying what she did, I think, has much bigger consequences. I mean, you can argue either way.
Okay. So one companion has all the consequence in the world to one character, which is the Doctor. The other companion has all the consequence to the universe. So I would say one outweighs the other. And in this case, it's Amy. She's got her life is consequential to the entirety of the universe as we know it. So and we saw a taste of that this season with Pandorica, and how all the enemies of the Doctor use her to set up his eventual fall. So that's why I consider her the most important companion. Because you take her out of the picture and then everything else falls apart. And if she isn't as strong as she is in these two episodes, then the Doctor dies. The Doctor's in prison, and the end of the universe comes. Because as we see it in the Big Bang in the second episode, the last episode, I should say, they barely save the universe. Barely. Just barely. And if Amy hadn't been as strong as she was, everything would be lost. The entirety of everything.
See, and it's funny you say that, the word strong, because up to this point, I might have agreed with you, but later on, I just feel like they put this huge thing on her, being responsible for saving the universe, and then did nothing else.
Well,
I feel like as again, I said this last time, I think it was last week, was that, we don't know anything about her. And she's only extraordinary when she's with the Doctor. And I just feel like that's an incomplete character.
Okay, how about we make this agreement? We judge her on this season and this season alone, And then when we
Right,
talk about
and I said at this point I was very happy with her and River.
okay,
At this point, because I didn't know any better,
okay, but there's reasons
it was like
there's
there
reasons
was
for the other stuff, and I'll make my points once we get to it.
right.
But I think you're judging her too harshly.
I think we need to rename this entire podcast just "We'll Get There." I counted like how many times we said that like in the last 2 or 3 episodes, and it could become its own drinking game.
Well, we gotta tiptoe around the supposed virgin over here, so
Yeah, I know. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Um, yeah,
So
but I really liked the way that this unfolded. Um, I I'm still not I'm not buying the fez and the bow tie in the same way. Like he's trying to make them happen, and I know that like that's a whole thing. And at least now I understand when I see Doctor Who cosplayers like wearing a fez and carrying around a mop, like what that is, and I'm like, okay, I get it, but and like why I kept seeing cosplay of like um uh Amy Pond uh, as a policewoman kissogram, a guy in a Roman centurion costume, and Matt Smith Doctor with a fez and a mop, and I'm like, what the heck is this show?
that makes sense. Yeah.
Now it makes sense, and I had a lot of fun with it. Yeah, so Rory, when he comes back, like this was like the more I tried to think about it, the more confused I got. So help straighten me out. He's a Cyberman,
No,
but he came out of Amy's imagination.
he
But
is a program. He's software. They used her memory of him to create the likeness of him. So everything he says is based on the memory that Amy has of him. So it seems real and authentic, but he's really not.
at this point, Amy doesn't remember him. So how?
There, deep in the recesses of her mind, she still has a significant amount of memory of him. Because remember when she finds the ring and she's like, "There's something about this ring. There's something about this ring. Like, why does it make me sad or whatever?" Somewhere in her mind, she was able to keep an essence of him. But the enemies of the Doctor have gone through time and gone through her memory and have pieced everything together to make it as authentic as possible to trap the Doctor.
Yeah, I loved when the Doctor finally met Rory and their reunion, the wordplay that they have in between them. It reminded me a little bit of how much I hated that charades from the Agatha Christie one and how silly that was. But
Oh,
I felt like this was done well, where he's like, "There's always something, Rory. It's always standing right in front of your face, and you just miss it. And we've got to figure out what that is." But Doctor, no, Rory, I'm thinking. It's like, wait, oh, Rory, and it's like, oh, duh, of course.
yeah, off camera, like he dropped something and he comes back and he looks at him. That
Yeah.
was perfect.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun because it was like it reminded us that the Doctor hadn't really forgotten Rory, but like was yeah, um, had also forgotten that everyone else had forgotten about Rory. So what an absent-minded professor. Oh, how silly.
Yeah,
But
and then
done well. Done well.
Rory kills Amy, and you're like, "What the f, man? What's happening here?"
That was terrible. It's
Yeah.
like, no. But then I liked I liked how they ended up doing this, and it ended up being a fun little puzzle. And when young Amy finds old Amy in the Pandorica, and she's like, okay, now this is when this gets complicated.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and
And I love seeing young Amy back again.
that was cool too. Yeah, that was really fun, and the idea that the Rory Centurion was like guarding her for thousands of years. Like that was kind of cool. And there's this whole urban legend around him. Like that's crazy and kind of fun.
It was, yeah. Okay, so we move on to the Big Bang, right?
Yeah, we've moved on to the Big Bang. We're talking about the Big Bang now.
Yeah, I like the legend of him. So I guess Amy's put into the Pandorica. They have to wait 2,000 years, and Rory is there by her side throughout the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how they speak about the legend during the Blitz, that the museum that was housing the Pandorica gets hit, but somebody saw a Centurion pull the Pandorica to safety, and we know it's Rory. And one of the cool parts of that episode is when the Dalek comes to life, and then you see the security guard, and it's Rory, and his hand does that thing with a weapon, and he shoots the Dalek. That was perfect, and that security guard outfit. So there's something to be said about how much he loves Amy, that he's willing to wait 2,000 years. Yeah.
Or
I'm not sure to wait 2,000 years, but still.
Or that he's programmed to think he loves Amy. See, again, this is where I'm not totally clear. That's not Rory, but it is.
The Rory that she knows would have done this, and the Rory that we know would have done this.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, even I wasn't too. I wasn't skeptical about that part. And remember, I've got a tiny little pre-Cindy Lou Who Grinch heart over here, okay? And even I didn't question that and just thought it was romantic.
Oh, I agree. I'm trying to work out like the continuity. I'm like, wait, is he Rory or isn't he, or what the?
There's some fudgy little things you'll find here and there with Doctor Who, but you just sort of learn.
I kind of get where you're coming from, but you're the guy that's okay with Looper and a guy getting body parts torn off 50 years in the future, and that didn't make any sense, and you're okay with it. So
their rules for time travel, they decided that's what the rules are, and
no,
they follow them.
You know that part of Looper made no sense whatsoever.
It doesn't make sense, but it's really cool looking.
That's hilarious.
I don't know what you're talking about because I have not seen that movie. So
yeah, you kind of maybe don't need to. It's an okay movie, but there's parts of it that just. Yeah.
Anyway, we won't talk about Looper.
We won't.
There's enough time travel in this episode to.
Yes.
Shake a stick at. So we're. I think my favorite moment out of all of this episode though was River's song versus the Dalek. Oh, man, that was cold.
Right.
And it was badass.
Yeah.
Like, check your memory banks again.
Mercy.
Oh, that was so good. Good
and
job.
And then she taunts him. She's like, say it again. And he's like, mercy. And she's like, say it one more time. And then the Dalek knows what's coming. He's like, mercy.
That was awesome. So, yeah, I don't mind her killing a Dalek, especially to save everyone else, especially after she thought the Dalek had already killed her husband. Like,
did she really? Because when she goes down and they say, the doctor isn't here, you should have been here. And then she tells them, rule number 1 of the doctor lies. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like the Dalek almost killed her husband. So,
right.
Or kind of. So he would have if he could have.
You don't know anything about husband yet. Settle down.
Okay. Fine.
You're
whatever they are.
You're not the pristine virgin you make yourself to be.
I hear things. I know what the word on the street is.
Yeah.
You're one of those virgins. I get it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, I'm a virgin, but I spend a lot of time on Pornhub. That kind of thing. Wah, wah.
Hey, so anyway, at the end of this episode, once the Doctor sacrifices himself, he blows up the TARDIS. We have Big Bang 2, resets everything. Amy has her parents back, which I thought was really cool. We finally meet her parents, and what kind of life she really had before the crack in the wall. All the things she's missed. That's all great, but the doctor is no more because only the things she remembers will be brought back. There is a major clue on upcoming events that I didn't really understand because when they get married and she looks out the window, River Song walks by, right? And how would she have ever remembered River Song? Like, she has nothing to base this on. Like, what triggers this memory of River Song? What could ever trigger the memory of River Song? But then, other stuff starts, coming together for her, and then she remembers the doctor, and we have him back. That bit right there with River Song, why she appears before the doctor, is huge in the coming season.
Really?
Ginormous. And it's a little hint that Moffat puts in there that nobody really picked up on, but when the big thing finally happens, like, the first thing I did was, oh, that's why she appeared before the doctor. Now it makes sense. So keep that in mind.
Do you already know, Andy?
No, I don't. I actually don't. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I was worried that he already knew.
No, because this is big. Yeah, this is big, and it's actually pretty awesome.
So no, I have no. I mean, I know. Well, I mean, there's an episode called the Doctor's Wedding or the Wedding of River Song or something. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, like it's like episode titles or whatever. Like I get, like, yeah. So anyway, but like other than that, I have no idea what you're talking about. So.
Cool.
Anything else on these episodes? So we've still got a Christmas Carol.
Yeah, aside from they're completely awesome.
Oh, jeez, these were completely awesome. I mean, if we hadn't just been through Vincent and the Doctor, I would have been like, these are the most amazing episodes ever. So.
Doesn't it feel good that Amy and Rory are married now?
Yeah.
It feels good.
Feels like it should have been done before, like a long time ago or something at this point. Also, I'm just glad that, remember when before Blink came, Marco and I were touting up that episode. We're like, oh, it's really great. And then, like, right around the time that he was actually going to watch it, I was like, oh, God, I wonder if we've oversold this. You know what I mean? And I was sort of afraid of that with Vincent and the Doctor, because you and I have talked about it or mentioned it several times in passing and how awesome it is in the weeks before now. And so I was sort of afraid we'd oversold that one as well. But it looks like Andy really enjoyed it just as much as we did.
You know what's funny is, like, for whatever reason, every time you guys talked about Vincent and the Doctor, for some reason, I had this weird thing going on in my mind thinking that there's an episode with Leonardo da Vinci, and I thought that's what you were talking about. Don't ask me why. And so I'm like, oh, this is an episode with Vincent van Gogh. I wasn't even thinking, oh, this is the episode they've been talking up. So it didn't even hit me until afterwards. I'm like, oh, no, this was the episode they were like. So I'm just stupid. I don't know. I was
you really don't know anything about art, do you?
No, I know a little bit of. I know the difference between Da Vinci and Van Gogh, but there's the Last Supper and the Mona Lisa, and then but no, I am not an art person necessarily.
A Da Vinci episode would be awesome.
Yeah, I think I was
Da Vinci, I still bristle. Did y'all watch True Detective this season 2?
No.
There's a city, good, don't bother, but there is a city called Vinci that they mentioned over and over and over again during the season, and we're talking only 8 episodes, and I still want to almost throw up when I hear that, because that's how bad this season was. I don't know why the hell I bothered, but anyway, so yeah, I'm glad it's Vincent and not Vinci. Ugh.
These were awesome episodes, but then we got, Amy and Rory got married, and they go on their honeymoon.
Which was awesome.
And of course, they go on a honeymoon on a space cruise that's going over a planet at Christmas with uh, shark clouds. So, like you do.
Yeah.
A Christmas Carol. I really enjoyed this. I didn't expect to. Um, but I think just from the beginning, with that opening narration by Dumbledore, where he's talking about how we, we all come together at that time at the winter solstice and celebrate that we've made it halfway through the dark. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way to put this. That's
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd had that exact same thought about Christmas and things like that before. I know a couple of Grinches in my life, and I just feel like I'm like, I don't care if you don't celebrate Christmas or whatever, but it feels like as a species we have come to this place where when it's dark outside and there's not a lot of light, we like to come together and be with one another and sing and celebrate a new year, a new life, the passage of time, and like I'm glad that I have you in my life, and whatever. Um, Try and be a very like broadly ecumenical about Christmas, so it's not just a Christian thing. It's like it is a pagan holiday, so
Yeah.
let's let's make sure we celebrate with our atheist brothers and sisters too. Um, so I really like that. I like that this was very Christmas Carol-esque without without it feeling like a Christmas Carol parody. It
Right.
wasn't Scrooged. It wasn't something like that. But there were themes that were there, while it also had its own take on it. And of course, Dumbledore is great. What's the name of that actor? It's slipping my mind. The second Dumbledore, not the first one.
Hold on. I know
Yeah.
this. You put me
Yeah.
on the spot. I should know this.
I'm terrible with names, and I've never seen the Harry Potter.
Michael Gabon? Gabon?
Yeah, sure.
One of those.
I think
Michael
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was Dumbledore. That's
Yeah.
all I know.
First things first, Dumbledore should always be Scrooge in every version of the Christmas Carol because he was perfect. He was great. The level of anger and bitterness that he brought to that role was perfect. But before that, what kind of kink are Amy and Rory into by getting dressed as the Kissogram and the Roman Centurion? Like, I have to know what was going on. Like, what kind of kink were they getting? That was kind of cool. That was funny. And the fact that everybody assumed that they were from the honeymoon suite because of the way they were dressed, that was hilarious.
I don't know. It's just she could be a kissogram in a TARDIS going to visit a Roman centurion.
I kind of want to be in the room to see that happening because it sounds hilarious.
I have a kissogram to deliver to you, Mr. Centurion.
I have to clear that through my general.
I've got a warrant for your arrest.
We're here to conquer your territory, Amy. Yeah,
We're terrible.
Yeah, we're horrible. But you know what? This is the one Christmas special that I really, really liked, and I love the way Moffat kind of, moved away from the RTD approach of the Christmas special. So this is the one good one, because there's another one after this, right, Melissa? With Nick Frost, I believe.
There's a couple of
The
them.
Christmas specials, you mean?
Yeah.
Um,
No, I think there's only one more.
I forget what order these all.
Yeah, I think there's only one.
Group them up, you know what I mean? And I was actually thinking that if you saw the Christmas special, there's one coming up that I hated really bad.
Which one?
The one with the mom, with the mother. I don't want to spoil it. It's just.
Yeah, that's the Nick Frost one. The one about the oranges.
I don't like it.
Yeah, no, it's not good. So
No.
this is
Okay,
yeah.
I thought you were saying it was good, and I was like,
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
like
no,
it.
no, no. I was disappointed because Nick Frost is one of my favorite people, but
Yeah, and they put
yeah,
him in
he couldn't save that.
terrible.
But this is the
Even by
one.
Christmas Christmas special standards, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it is. This is the one Christmas special that's really, really good,
Yeah,
and it was
yeah.
inventive. Um, it's kind of cool that there's flying sharks. This was before Sharknado,
Yeah.
uh, but it's done well enough, I guess. Um, but aside from all that, I love the fact how this kid fell in love with this frozen woman, and he visited her every year. And the one thing that just made him bitter as hell was to find out that she was sick, and on her next day off from the cryo tank, I guess, was going to be her last day because her disease had caught up with her. So he makes himself hard and refuses to open her up again to save her, if anything. But that makes him a bitter person the rest of his life, to where he doesn't care about anything or anybody. And let's mention the fact also that he had a horrible father.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things where your environment shapes you. I mean, it doesn't excuse that you grow up to be an a-hole, because that's what he grew up to be, but it informs everybody as to why he's that way.
I thought it was so cool. The doctor immediately like hones in on what's going on, and like by the way the chair is faced away from the painting, and so on and so forth. And he's like, I get your relationship with your dad, but you also know that you're not your dad, and you know why? You didn't hit the child. You're a good person, so we're gonna figure a way out of this. And I was like, oh, that is cool. It's like it it felt it did felt feel very Dickensian, and the whole like, oh, well, we're the ghosts of Christmas past and Christmas present, showing you what's going on. Um, so it's fun because there were those very like earthly, semi-Victorian elements. There was the like cryogenics, far future sort of elements, but it still felt kind of steampunky.
Right.
And then there was also this like strange fantasy space element, uh, with the shark, and especially the whole like, oh well, the shark's coming down and he's got half of my screwdriver still in him. So whenever the shark starts getting close, then the screwdriver starts beeping, and it's just like the Jaws theme. It's like dun 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 dun. I'm like, oh, the shark's coming! Oh no! It was awesome. I loved it. It was silly, but it was also a little scary. And then they had a magical sleigh ride with the shark.
With a
So,
shark.
you know,
That's a good way to end it. That was cool.
I
Yeah.
This might be the only show ever where I would say Magic Sleigh Ride with the Shark is okay. Like, if
yeah.
you try to put this in any other show, I would be like, what the hell? Kind of, what were they smoking of? But for somehow, it was okay. It was good. And that's like a testament. That's part of the reason why I love this show, is because there's all kinds of craziness that makes perfect sense in context.
it it not only makes perfect sense, but it's a bunch of stuff that shouldn't work together,
Yeah.
and somehow it does. It's like your savant friend who like goes into your kitchen and you're like, oh, I don't have anything to cook, and you're like, oh no, you've got this, 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 and this. I'm gonna cook you up something with just those four elements. It's like the people who are on like Chopped or Cutthroat Kitchen, and they like figure out a way to like make this thing taste good, and you're like, what the heck? You are amazing at your job.
Yeah. Yeah, Cutthroat Kitchen.
Yeah.
We know what you watch now.
I love the Food Network.
Yeah, no, Food Network's my favorite.
Yeah. So
Yeah. No, yeah, this was overall, it was really, really good. It was kind of rewarding. Like I've mentioned this before, that every year we hear the promise of a better Christmas special, and every year we're disappointed. And by this point, I was like, "F you, man! I'm not gonna believe you anymore. screw this. I'm not even going to tune in. But this is one of the times where I was kind of glad I did. It worked. It really worked. It's the only time that it's really worked. And, I'm foreshadowing future Christmas specials. Although I'm hoping this coming season's Christmas special actually rocks. So here I am being positive again. But this time around, it really, really worked. And it was really nice to see, love blossom between two people. And, what love does to people. It makes you happy, but it can also tear you apart. And when it tears you apart, you kind of tend to want the whole world to come down with you. And that was this character's biggest flaw, I guess. But in the end, it all worked out pretty good.
Yeah, and Marilyn Monroe wants to marry the Doctor. So, got all sorts of things going on here. Yeah, no, this was a great wrap up. Like I said, if I'd had my druthers, I would have gone on straight into the next season. So that's what I'm gonna do this time around. If I get through the first 7 episodes and it's only like Wednesday or Thursday, I'm just gonna do the whole season. Because if I get to Let's Kill Hitler, then I'm just gonna go on through the rest of the episode, or through the rest of the episodes for the season.
You're gonna enjoy the first one off the bat, I think, because it takes place in your old stomping grounds. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Utah.
No way.
It's really beautiful. Like, they really kind of, in certain scenes, you get a good showcase for it.
Wow.
How beautiful the land is, yeah.
You know what, man? There is this one episode that focuses on the TARDIS incarnate, and I love that episode. It was written by Neil Gaiman, and it's so Neil Gaiman. But it's really, really, really cool because by this point we should all understand that the TARDIS is a living thing. But to actually see it as a sentient person and the way it talks and reacts and interacts with the Doctor, awesome. I can't wait till you see that.
Well, good. I'm excited for that because I've never understood that why people cosplay as the TARDIS, and that is like a popular thing. And I'm like, oh no.
Dude, TARDIS is like my second favorite character. It's like it's basically a character, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the one episode that actually has a character front and center. It's brilliant. I love it.
Well, cool. I'm really excited. Like I said, I might just gobble these up really quickly because I'm just so excited, and we're running out of room before Series 9 starts. So if I feel like the sooner I can do them, the better. We may have to, if I end up watching all of these this week, we may have to pick and choose which episodes we do, or do 2 episodes.
We'll just do 2 episodes, man, because there's a lot of episodes that we have to cover, especially the one on the moon, because brand new villain comes around, and fantastic villain. To me, they're, in terms of scariness, they're second to the Weeping Angels. Very close second.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that, and I hope that everyone else is too. I'm just so jazzed about all this. So thanks, everyone, for coming along on this ride with all of us. Thanks, Mark and Melissa, for being on the podcast, as always. And thanks, everyone at Big Shiny Robot, especially Tom Winkley, for hosting our podcast. Oh, one more thing before I forget. Anyone in the Utah area, make sure you go and check out the taping of the Big Shiny podcast live at 50 West Club. Go to the Big Shiny Robot Facebook page for more information, or to BigShinyRobot.com. Find out how you can get tickets. Go check that out for a live taping. The last live taping of the Big Shiny podcast we had, I crashed it. I will not be crashing this one. We also had a Doctor Who crasher, and he was a lot of fun. So come in your Doctor Who costumes and and annoy the heck out of my other big shiny robot folks. But uh, until then, we will see you all next time.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.
And that's over.